All right, time for the weekly questions and answers session. I didn't have the time to do it last week, so I'm going to have double the amount of questions and comments to respond to this week, I guess. Also, before we begin, a little announcement. The natural language learning course is becoming a community now. Yeah, it's the natural language learning community. The course will remain the same with all the materials, the lessons, the learning plans, language islands, everything's included, obviously. But now there's also a community next to it. They go together as one product. But yeah, there's a community available with live calls, chats, language exchange, challenges, and things like that, and also requests. If you are in the community and you want specific materials for a specific language and it's not available yet, yeah, we'll try to create them as soon as possible. Or any kind of feedback about the course, it's much easier for you to give it there because it's going to be, I want this to be much more of a conversation instead of people just going in the course and following the course. Yeah, I want you to follow the course and do the exercises, follow the plans, and become fluent. But also, I prefer this to be not a monologue, but that's why I'm doing a questions and answer session, right? I want this to be more of a conversation. Anyway, let's get started. So, any updates on this? First question, referring to the comprehensible input versus memorization and deliberate practice. Yeah, the update is that deliberate practice absolutely and completely crushed comprehensible input as expected in that particular experiment or any other kind of experiment you do. Deliberate practice, memorization techniques, and specifically deliberate practice with retrieval, active recall, whatever you want to call it. Things like translation, speaking exercises will always be much more efficient. You will get much better results in less time by doing that. Yeah. Comprehensible input as a method is for the lazy. If you want to improve fast, you need to memorize vocab, learn lots of sentences, learn all the grammar in context, drill the same sentences over and over again, retrieval practice. Yeah, where you try to remember the sentences and then check, make the mistakes, check if you where you're making the mistakes, self-correct again and again and again. It can be frustrating, can be difficult, but an hour of this kind of practice is worth 10 or 20 hours of comprehensible input, if not more. Yeah, deliberate practice will increase your comprehension, but also your speaking, your active vocabulary instead of just passively learning. You'll get much better at speaking, but if you do deliberate practice with it. Okay, next question. Can you share the list? Yeah, the lists are always in the description. There are links there. There's the trial version, the free version of natural language learning, which is already quite good because you get the basic vocabulary, the basic grammar, and some basic language islands for conversation. If you learn all of those, you will already be conversational. And then if you like it, you can go to the full membership natural language learning course and now community, and you can continue learning there. Or you can try to implement it on your own as well. Okay. Congratulations on 3,000 subscribers. Thank you. Good tips on learning Spanish. Yeah. Learning Spanish is not something I've done because I would say I'm a native speaker, right? Even if it's not my mother tongue technically, but yeah, I consider myself a native speaker. But I do know how to learn Spanish really well because most of my clients, most of my students are learning Spanish. Well, that's kind of, yeah. Okay. I've got lots of Spanish, mostly businesses and professionals who learn English or German or French. But for Spanish, it's just mostly English speakers who want to move to Latin America or Spain, and they need to learn Spanish. They want to learn Spanish as soon as possible. So, yeah, most of my experience is either English speakers learning Spanish or Spanish speakers learning English. So, yeah, I'm pretty good with both languages, helping you learn both languages. Obviously, I can help you learn any other language as well, but yeah, Spanish is my specialty, I would say. Okay. Francis Lee says about Glossica, very similar to Closemaster. At 83 to $100 lifetime instead of monthly. Still, I'm using both Glossica more, even if I like the 90s vibes. I keep seeing this Closemaster thing. It has 15,000 words too. It's quite useful. 15,000 words is good. The thing is, I haven't really tried that. I just look at the website, and the first thing it said, if I look at your website and your language learning app or whatever, your language learning resources website, and the first sentence talks about gamification, yeah, you lost me there. Gamification is for the lazy and for people with low attention spans and low willpower and low discipline. You need to stay in power, you need discipline, and you need to work hard. Anything that involves gamification reminds me of Duolingo. I don't trust it. And probably neither should you. Maybe there's something that's really good somewhere, but everything I've seen that involves gamification, especially if they brand themselves as gamification, is likely to be garbage. That's my opinion, my professional opinion. Elizabeth says, my goals are to learn Portuguese, Mandarin, Chinese, and Japanese from scratch, and I like to improve my Spanish. That's quite a lot, but it can be done, especially because Portuguese is 80 to 90% similar to Spanish. So if you already speak some Spanish, Portuguese is going to be very easy. It's also easy to mix them up, right? If you your Spanish is not very good and then you start learning Portuguese, or even if you're a native speaker of Spanish and you learn Portuguese, you end up mixing both and you speak Portuñol. But there are ways to avoid that. You can use the sentences, the language islands, and the rest of the sentences, the vocabulary lists with the example sentences, the grammar lists with the sentences, and you create a three language document there with English, Portuguese, and Spanish, so that you get, and also you should listen to it, but seeing Portuguese and Spanish sentences, the same sentences next to each other, will help you understand the differences between both languages. And then if you listen to the audio of both languages, exactly the same content in both languages, you'll notice the differences. You learn the differences in pronunciation as well. And about Mandarin, Chinese, and Japanese, I went through a phase of memorizing a bunch of Japanese vocab just for fun. But I haven't learned any either of those languages. I will though. What I recommend is learning again. Do the same thing with the lists, but instead of using kanji or Chinese characters, just write it all phonetically, and then lots of listening and do all the other exercises and learn it phonetically until you can understand spoken Chinese and Japanese, and you can speak it well. And then you learn to read and write. That's my advice. Okay. Mido says, children are way much better than adults in second language acquisition. They are full of questions and fun, therefore that makes it easier for them to learn a new language. You see, these are the people who live in this unicorn hippie where everything, if children are better at this and they're full of questions and no judgment and they're fun, things in the real world, results, you don't achieve them with fun. Yeah, results come from hard work and smart work, and children do neither. Children learn languages effectively because they spend 5 or 6 hours a day with the language, in contact with the language for years and years. So after 10,000 hours of contact with the language, they are able to understand and speak it. You don't have the time to do that. But if you give a child 1,000 hours and you give yourself 1,000 hours, maybe you know yourself, you would fail, but someone who knows what they're doing, 1,000 hours with a proper plan and materials, like the ones you'll find in the description, you will crush those kids. They won't learn anything. In 1,000 hours, maybe they know a few words after watching videos for 1,000 hours. You will speak the language really, really, really well, and you will understand and speak the language really well. And I said 1,000 hours. I don't know why. I got used to talking in thousands of hours because of the dreaming Spanish crap, but no, let's say 100 hours, which is realistic already. That's a month, 3 hours a day. 3 hours a day in a month. You give a child 3 hours a day for a month of contact with the language, just watching fun stuff. They won't achieve anything. You study hard with a good method, yeah, for 3 hours a day for a month, and I guarantee you'll get really good results. You'll understand a lot of the language and you'll be able to have long conversations and probably speak relatively error free if you do all the right things, which are difficult, they're hard work, and they require discipline, which you don't have and children don't have either. But a lot of people do. And if you are one of those people, the guy from the comment, no, but you watching, if you are one of those people who are smart and hardworking and have discipline, and you want results now and not in 2030, then you try something like this and you work hard and you can get results fast. Yeah. So children are not better. They just spend 100 times more time in contact with the language. But you don't have that time. You will never have that time. But fortunately for you, you can do it much more efficiently. Next question. Don't start speaking since day one. You don't know much of what you're saying. You're wasting time. You should try to memorize perfect sentences first. Don't try to learn words and then form sentences on the go. Yeah, so you can start speaking from day one, but not get in front of a. That's why an online tutor is a waste of time most of the time. You get in front of a tutor and you can't say anything. And okay, how do I say this in Chinese? They tell you the word, and then how do I say this other thing? And they tell you that, and you write down the things and you practice them. And at the end of the session, you've learned 5 words in Chinese. Bravo! You'll need 10 years to be fluent. But if you spend that hour drilling sentences, you get the meaning and you get the sentence with audio, and you repeat after them over and over again. Instead of 5, you learn 100. If you do it correctly, you memorize the words with associations, you drill over and over again, repeat them aloud, retrieval practice. In an hour, you learn 50 to 100 sentences. That then, not words, sentences, yeah, that then you can use. And you do that daily, and yeah, soon you'll be able to speak face to face to people once you know a few thousand words and a few thousand sentences. But don't try to speak to people when you can't say anything. It's a massive waste of time and energy. It's also stressful for a lot of people. Okay, next question. Nicki Minaj says, okay, when I was little, I learned a pretty good amount of English just by listening. I thought Nicki Minaj was a native English speaker. Apparently, she is not. Just by listening to music and reading Twitter, and now I'm trying to learn Japanese, but it's hard for me. And now I think, was it easy to learn English because it was easier than Japanese, or because I was a child? Neither. It was easier because you spend a lot more time with English than with Japanese. You probably had English classes as well. And the internet is mostly in English. And also, English is definitely, if you come from, I don't know what your native language is, but if your native language is European, Germanic language, Romance language, or Slavic, or the other European languages, and you write it with the Roman alphabet, yes, English is going to be easier because it has more cognates, a lot more vocabulary that's recognizable because it's related. They have the same root, and also because it's much easier to read, and also it's everywhere on the internet. So my bet, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, my bet would be that you have a spent way more time with English, in contact with English, and b English is just more difficult because Japanese is more different from your native language than English is. But yeah, children are not better at learning languages. Um, 600 hours of dreaming Spanish is a waste of time. And Chahailus says, I agree, laughing face. Three laughing faces. Yeah, it is. It's a complete waste of time. 600 hours, and you see all these people making videos. My update, speaking Spanish, and they still suck, like really bad at speaking Spanish. So 600 hours, mate. 600 hours, you could learn three languages and speak them relatively well if you do the right exercises, which are hard work and not fun, but they are very effective, unlike this nonsense. I think I'm getting ill. My throat's really dry. Another comment. I always felt this way. I needed this video. Thanks, bro. About dreaming Spanish being a waste of time. Yes, it is. Look, anyone who's telling you that the best way to learn a language is to watch 2,000 hours of videos, it's lying to you, or they're themselves completely ignorant and mediocre, because think about it. If there's nothing that's worth doing that's easy, otherwise everyone would do it. And if they're giving you a way to do it easily or with no effort, it's a lie. And if they're telling you you can do something which is basically entertainment and learn it, they're lying to you. They're lying to you, or at least they are bringing you to their mediocrity. If you can learn something by being entertained, you can get acquainted with it. You can get an idea of how Spanish works if you listen to enough Spanish and you watch enough Spanish videos. But you have to do. In order to get good at doing something, you have to do it. You have to attack the whatever the subject is. You have to do the high impact activities that will basically you have to practice the things that you have to do later. So if you want to get good at chess, you won't get good at chess by watching chess videos. You need to practice chess. Yeah. If you both play and then, I mean, I'm not an expert, but yeah, you have to learn different moves and different positions and all that, strategies, openings, etc. If you want to learn jiu-jitsu, yeah, you can watch instructionals, but you can watch every John Danaher instructional in the world, 2,000 hours of it, you still have no idea of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, you can try and do them in real life, but you will suck. You need to practice the moves. Yeah, and you need feedback on how you're doing it. This is why retrieval practice with translation is so much better, because you're trying to speak Spanish or whatever language it is, and B, you are getting immediate feedback over and over again. So you are improving all the time. Anyway, yeah, dreaming Spanish, waste of time. The next one. Your accent is very slurry and careless. You better write what you think rather than utter it. And then I told him his English comprehension is probably not very good. And he says, my native language is Slavic. Not surprised. Nothing against Slavic people, by the way. I love Eastern Europeans. Our sounds are very clear and distinct, whereas English per se is quite slurry, especially when spoken carelessly. No, mate. If you think English is quite slurry and your own language sounds very clear, it's because your English is not good. That's the only reason. All languages can sound slurry. Everyone mumbles. Some people mumble. Like in every language, there are people who mumble, and in every language, there are people who speak clearly. If you think a language is not clear, it's because you're not very good at listening comprehension. So you need to do some practice with that. How to learn languages with link. And there's this guy who comments, I wish it could give feedback on the pronunciation like Duolingo does. Why do you wish anything was like Duolingo? Duolingo is the worst thing ever in language learning. It's the worst thing to happen to language learners anywhere because you get millions, tens of, probably hundreds of millions of delusional people pretending, lying to themselves about learning languages. In the thousands, 1,000, 2,000 day streaks and still not able to speak. They just lie to themselves. Eventually, they'll be fluent. They think they never will. Duolingo is the worst thing to ever happen to language learning. Yeah. So please don't mention it on my channel. Duolingo should, if you use it, just delete it. Sue them because they wasted your time, massively wasted your time. They owe you thousands of hours of your time that you wasted using that worthless app. Okay. Mumin Thrak says, using phonetics is a horrible crutch. It is never the way the Arabic sounds. Learn the Arabic alphabet, then Arabic words, then practice reading. You have no idea about language learning. You will always know what someone says or means by seeing it written. Even Arabs with the dialect mispronounce Arabic. And then a bunch of examples. And then someone answers, unless you really use phonetics, IPA for Arabic DMG, which I have no idea what it was, and learn the mechanics of the sounds. That's also the problem with most textbooks. They use English sounds to describe Arabic sounds. And then it doesn't matter if you learn Arabic script. You need to build awareness of the sounds. Yeah, so this is the thing. A lot of people do this with my videos. They take one particular thing, like memorization of vocabulary or pronunciation with phonetically written, like writing Arabic phonetically or something like that, but happens mostly with memorization of vocabulary. They take one thing, one piece of the system, and they'll be like, this is a terrible idea. This will never work because this, and this. And language learning is more than just memorizing words. And the reality of it is that's one technique to solve one specific problem that should be combined with all these other things. And the same for pronunciation. Yeah, obviously, if you just read the phonetically written Arabic, your Arabic listening comprehension and your own pronunciation will be absolutely terrible, and no one will understand you, and you will never understand Arabic. That's why you combine it with listening to the same content. Yeah, so you're reading it and you're listening to it, and then you're listening to it over and over again, and you learn what's written like that. Like if it's written like that using Roman characters, what does it actually sound? And then you learn to associate the sounds to the text. Learning to read Arabic fast is a terrible idea, and it's a massive waste of time, because I'm not telling anyone they shouldn't learn to read in Arabic. Yeah, go ahead and learn to read in Arabic. But if you want to speak the language, it's a waste of time, because you will always be a very, very slow reader. And if you in a second language, it will take you forever to learn to first read the characters and then you learn to read something that you don't really know. Like, you don't know the words. If you don't know the words, the meaning of the text, and you learn to read it, then it's just extremely slow. Yeah, you're just trying to. So you have to check every word. Then it's just adding an extra layer of difficulty that you don't need in the beginning. Yeah, you learn to read after you learn to you learn to read, and right after you learn to listen and speak. Yeah, so do it phonetically. Yeah, using the sentences. The sentences are there just for you to have an idea of, to remind you of what the sentence sounded like. The text is there to remind you of what it sounded like. But you mostly should do it by listening and repeating and listening to it over and over again, and then saying it aloud. Yeah. Um, okay. Another expert here. Are children better at learning languages? And the comment: this is dumb. If you talk two languages around a baby, it will learn. The baby is not an it, first of all. It will learn both if you speak a new language around an adult. It won't pick up. And if you speak a new language around an adult, it won't pick up shit. If you talk two languages around a baby, it will learn both. If you speak a new language around an adult, it won't pick up shit till you actively teach it. First of all, your English sucks. That's hard to read. And I think you're a native speaker, mate. So yeah, there's that. But also, you have no idea about language learning, because yeah, baby will learn two languages at the same time if you speak them around him or her, or whatever other pronouns the baby chooses to use. But the baby will take thousands of hours to understand and speak those languages. You do the same around an adult, and voila, the adult will understand and speak as well as the baby or more, if you give both of them the same amount of time in contact with the language. And the adult has the advantage that can use proper techniques to learn effectively, and the baby can't. There's that. Okay. Jamie Smith says, does one get the Google Sheet of sentences, noun, verbs, adjectives with the free course, or is it reserved for your paid course? You can always click on the link and check the free course. The free course has list of basic verbs, nouns, and adjectives, A1, A2 level, which is pretty good enough. It's enough already to become conversational, and some basic grammar, also A1, A2, and some basic language islands, which if you use all of that, it's already enough to get conversational in any language, really. Like, you learn maybe a couple thousand words and lots of practical sentences, and you learn all the basic grammar, and that's enough to speak a language, really. But of course, I prefer you to go to the paid course. Anyway. This is an interesting one. Please debunk the video exposing fake polyglots, warning signs, and red flags by Language Jones. It just came out a few hours ago, and it's full of BS. Good content material for you. And this is a topic for another video. I watched it. It was interesting to watch. I will actually react to it, but that's content for another video. Mostly because I've been faffing a little bit and wasted some time, and I have to finish this because I've got a client waiting. Okay. Cheers, guys. See you later.